you very much, Miriam. There's an introduction anyway, isn't it? My goodness me. So yes, look, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here to speak with you this afternoon, to Sarah and Miriam. A few slides I'm going to bring you through. There might be some concepts I'm going to invite you to consider, and I'd be curious as to how they're received. If your interest is piqued, I've brought along a sample of two papers that have been published. One's called The Alienated Child, the other one's called Parental Alienation: A Systemic Perspective. Okay, so parental alienation. What I'm going to do is we're going to invite you to consider a definition. I have an academic definition and I have a straightforward, simple one. We'll have a look at some of the history around parental alienation. We'll have a look at some signs that a family is vulnerable. Then we'll have a look at the ideas around, is it recognised? It can be a controversial piece. Supporters can be very passionate in putting forward their side of it, and equally critics can be as passionate around it. And then we'll have a look at the impact on the child. Okay, so before I continue, I'd like to preface everything I'm about to say by making the point that there are occasions when some children do indeed reject parents for very valid reasons. That's not parental alienation. Equally, there may be occasions when it's normal for a child to periodically regulate distance and closeness with each parent as they transition through different developmental stages. Again, that is not parental alienation. Okay, so what is parental alienation? So what we consider is that, first of all, it happens in the context of high conflict separations and divorces, where a child will reject a previously loved parent. Bill Bernay, he's a psychiatrist based in the US. He provides this particular definition for us to consider. So he tells us that parental alienation is when a child allies himself or herself strongly with one parent and rejects the relationship with the other parent without legitimate justification, despite a previous warm and loving relationship. The primary behavioural symptom is a child refuses contact with a parent. Another piece I'm going to speak to actually here is the idea of gender. This is not gender specific. Mums and dads are alienated from children in Ireland. Particularly in the last 4 years, I'm seeing lots and lots of mums in my own practice coming forward. So, an alternative definition for you to consider is it's essentially when a child's mind is poisoned against a parent. I have an idea that children naturally love and want to be with both parents, but that you have to be carefully taught to hate and fear a parent. Okay, the history. So, some people have this idea that it's this new kind of fandango American psychobabble that kind of emerged in the 1980s. But actually, informed practitioners will know very clearly this phenomenon has been around for quite some time. For example, when we think of the story of Solomon in the Bible, when he offered to cut a child in two to solve the dispute between two parents. One parent didn't have a problem with it, but the parent who had the child's interest at heart said, no, don't cut the child. In the 1600s, Mary Queen of Scots is said to have been alienated from her son James. In 1826, and this is a legal case, you can look it up if you like, the Earl of Westmeath is said to have alienated his children from their mother, who was the Countess of Westmeath. In 1850, Charles Dickens is said to have alienated his children from their mother. Albert Einstein in 1914 was probably the first one to use the phrase alienation when he spoke about his relationship or his experiences of his relationship with his children. Then in the 1950s, the founding psychiatrists and theorists of the systemic family therapy approach, they were independently noting and documenting particular presentations with their inpatients or child inpatients who were presenting with psychosis. The dynamics that they have documented are remarkably similar to what we would know as alienation today. Okay, so what does it look like? What kind of families are likely to experience this? What kind of things are going on in families? First of all, there's likely to be a high conflict or a protracted battle in relation to custody and access. As part of that, information about schools will not be passed on to one parent. Information about medical appointments or surgical procedures will not be passed on to one parent. I've come across cases where one parent will just simply up and move the child to another part of the country or to another country entirely without notifying anybody, including the other parent. There will be false allegations of abuse and neglect, and we need to be clear here. Child welfare trumps everything. All allegations have to be investigated fully to ensure the safety and welfare of children. No argument there. But in cases of alienation, those allegations will be false. To give you an example, I recently worked with a family where a dad presented his 6-year-old son to St. Clair's Unit in Temple Street on December 26th for investigation and examination in relation to allegations of sexual abuse that he knew to be false. He then presented himself to 40 different Garda stations trying to have allegations brought forward. Adult information will be disclosed to the child. The child will have an intimate knowledge around courts, solicitors, what judges do or say, so on and so forth. Typically a child will say something like, well, I'll go in and I'll tell the judge I never want to see mum ever again. Okay, some other examples are one parent would be unreasonably interfering with the contact time between the child and the other parent. Typically the parent will present as, well, Mary or Johnny doesn't want to see you anymore. And that's it. That parent will present as very much disempowered around that. They say, well, what can I do if a 12-year-old doesn't want to see mum or dad? But then I'm often curious because I would ask, okay, so if Mary doesn't want to go to school tomorrow, is that okay too? And then that parent is very empowered around all other aspects of the child's life. Okay, so they'll be eradicating the targeted parent from a child's life. Very often a parent will tear up photographs of one parent in front of the child. The child very quickly, implicitly and explicitly comes to understand it's not okay to talk about the other parent. It's not okay to say they enjoyed time or want to spend time with the other parent. The child will present as denigrating one parent. They'll kick, spit, punch, destroy property. They stop calling them mum or dad. They might start calling mum it or dad him. The child will take on the surname of one parent. That isn't the surname of the other parent, if you know what I mean. We have parents who will demand that the child chooses a side in the custody battle. And they will encourage the child to be defiant towards a targeted parent. Okay, let's move on. So is it recognised? There is an idea. The critics will say, no, it's not recognised. It's not in the DSM, so it's not real. Or it's never been recognised by any professional body. And when I hear people say that, I'm invited, or I will often refer to some of these pieces here. So in terms of professional organisations, back in 1997, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in the US published practice parameters for their psychiatrists working in custody battles, addressing alienation. The current DSM-5, 2013, doesn't mention parental alienation specifically, but what it does say is child affected by parental relationship distress, child psychological abuse. I invite people to look at page 716, 718, 719 of the DSM. There's a number of labels there. The current edition, the ICD-11, parental alienation, those words are in the ICD-11, which is the European version of the DSM. Okay, so then the impact on the child. Informed practitioners will know very clearly the pervasive impact on children. If you can imagine where one child is essentially being co-opted into an alliance to reject the other parent. They're being asked to reject and terminate the relationship with one half of their family. grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends of the targeted parent will all be rejected without reason. The child is left in a situation whereby they say, well, I'm 50% of that parent. If that parent is that bad, well then I must be really, really bad. Another key piece to mention is that the impacts are not just current. They move across the lifespan of the child and on into the next generation when they go on to have families of their own. Anxiety, depression, substance abuse, typical presentations, deliberate self-harm, suicidal ideation, and so on, and so on, and so on. The list goes on and on and on. Okay. So there's that idea around gender. Historically, there may have been an idea that this was something just affected men. But actually, again, informed practitioners know very clearly that there is more and more women and mums here in Ireland. Every week I'm meeting them who are identifying with being alienated. In terms of the occurrence of it, would anyone like to make a quick guess at how many applications for custody, access, so on and so forth are made in Ireland? Would someone like to have a quick stab at it? Sorry? 70,000. Yep, good one, good guess. So the Court Service of Ireland gives us some figures, and the most recent report tells us that there was 48,000 applications to District and Circuit Court. We don't know how many children are involved in each of those applications. Okay, I have a video here for about 6 minutes. Does that keep us in the time slot? Yes, this will be the end of it. So I'd invite you to have a look at this. So that's it. Thank you, guys.